Higher taxes. We're now joined by Doug Kellogg, Director of State Affairs, Americans for Tax Reform. What's happening at the state level? Doug.
Thank you. Thank you on my opening acts today. This is the perfect year to say goodbye to all the misinformation that we've seen at the state level about federal tax reform. Reaching tax cuts for the vast majority of individuals across the country. Wages are up, income is up, jobs are up. Again, in the vast majority of states. The best is yet to come. We're seeing the corporate income tax rate reduction do wonders for businesses in terms of being internationally competitive. Relief for small businesses, making it easier to start and run a business in the states. So the news is good. The news is even good for state governments. We've seen revenues up for states across the country. Some are using this responsibly to avoid tax increases. We saw a tax increase avoided in Pennsylvania last session. Some are using it a little less responsibly. My favorite example being Delaware, where the legislature gave themselves and state employees a big Trump tax reform bonus. Somehow that didn't make it into the ATR.org/list of tax reform good news. So if the news is good, the situation is good, it really is the time to say goodbye to misinformation, because there's still too much garbage and lies out there about tax reform from so-called state leaders. We see folks like Governor Cuomo calling federal tax reform an economic missile aimed at the New York economy. We've seen a lawsuit from 4 states, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Maryland. A frivolous lawsuit wasting taxpayer money in the name of fighting for taxpayers. So it's hard to take these folks seriously when they come back to the table and push for tax increases. We've seen Governor Murphy in New Jersey increase taxes by $1 billion last year, come back to the table this year looking for another $1 billion tax increase. In Connecticut, new Governor Ed Lamont looking to expand the sales tax so drastically that you'll see an increase in your taxes for taking your dog to the vet. In New York, Governor Cuomo just signed into law a number of taxes and fees, tax increases on going to work in the city, in addition to taxes on pain medication, a very dangerous precedent there. So look, these folks are just politically motivated, and I think it's important that we call them out. They're not serious about actually fighting for taxpayers. They're just looking for a Trump-shaped excuse for long-standing problems in their own states. These are states like New Jersey with anemic population growth over the past decade. States like New York and Connecticut that have seen population loss outright, not just losing taxpayers, not just state-to-state out-migration, but outright population loss a number of years in the past 10 years and the past decade. So there are long-standing problems that these folks are not interested in fixing, and when they complain about the limitation on state and local tax deductions, what they're really saying is they want an excuse for problems that they're not willing to fix. And the very small number of folks in their states that will see any type of additional liability because of the cap on salt, need to remember that it is the folks in Albany and Hartford and Trenton that are responsible for those taxes, not Washington. And I think they get that as we see them leaving these states, and they're not leaving because of what's going on in Washington. They're voting with their feet because of what's going on in their state capitals. So I'll close by saying high taxes have not been working before the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and they're not working after. It is the states that have been responsible, states that are making common sense adjustments after federal tax reform, deciding to conform or not conform with the federal tax code to avoid unintended tax increases. Those are the states that are below the radar, they're making less noise, but they're the ones who are acting responsibly and protecting their taxpayers, while these other loud states simply want to complain because they don't want to cut taxes and act responsibly. So thank you very much. Thank you, Robert.